My job as a security guard used to be fun. Co-workers used to joke around a lot with me, and I make friends with everybody, so we had a good time. This warehouse packs and distributes frozen dinners for a company you may have already heard about. So this place gets cold near the storage areas. Workers literally work inside refrigerators, moving boxes and pulling pallets with forklifts and jacks all day long until 1 or 2 in the morning. That gap between 2 a.m. and 5 a.m. was dead quiet, always. I'm usually by myself in the screen room with another member of the security staff out on the security booth by the entrance. We text and radio each other if we want to switch places, but I end up on the screen room most of the time. My job there is to scan the screens and shut off door alarms by physically going to the gates, checking the locks, and turning them off with a key. We used to be able to turn them off with the controls in the screen room, but somebody ended up breaking in because of it. They didn't take anything, but the lock and door replacement was an easy $2,000 loss. John, the longtime security guard at the time, was fired for dismissing the alarm without checking it. Hanging out with John was cool. He used to tell me stories of the things he had seen at the warehouse over the years, even before this company took over. Things about catching employees stuffing their jackets with tools and batteries, to catching people doing more inappropriate things on the job. Of course, he had some other stories that changed the mood of the break room right away. Stories of accidents. The different type of cleanup crew that would come by to collect severed body parts and soak up the blood from our floors. The sanitizing crew. Yep, he would say. Heavy machines don't care who you are and won't know if they kill you. They just go back to work. One of the stories was about an employee named Becky. John printed and handed her ID badge himself. Young, pretty, and excited to work. She understood the rules and worked fast, John would say every time he repeated the story. One morning, Becky's hairnet got caught on the bottom part of an overhead conveyor belt while she was on the ladder, eventually catching onto her hair, lifting her, and finally dropping her by the belt's motor. First, her arms twisted. Then, her torso burst. The loud machines drowned out her screams. John was a master storyteller, but he didn't have to try to catch our attention with Becky's story. His eyes would turn down to the floor and his voice would get quieter in sadness as he spoke of her. John saw the event on the security camera and ran to the operator's desk to turn off the machines in a panic. The operator hit the emergency stop button, but by this time, Becky's dark hair and part of her scalp were already on the conveyor belt. You could tell by the increasing screams of the employees that were down the line. The site was shut down. The cleanup crew showed up, and a new management was put in place, but it was too late. The city shut down the operation due to safety concerns, and the warehouse was sold to a company who eventually leased it to the company that I work for now. Becky's story is a sad one, but it isn't over. When I got hired, John was assigned to give me a tour of the place. He showed me where the cameras were, and we walked down the hall with the main fridge. He pointed at the corner camera and said, "Keep an eye on this hall, and then tell me what you see." I smiled nervously and asked why. "I'll tell you the story when you see it," he said. It took me exactly 30 nights before I found out. Had I been assigned to the screens earlier, I might have caught it sooner. The last managers had checked out at 2 in the morning, and I did my walkthrough for lost items, remaining employees, and safety issues. As I was passing by the hall John told me about, he came in through the radio. "Where are you?" he asked. "By 2 Alpha," I said. 2 Alpha was the section's name. "The sensors show you in 2 areas, man. Come take a look." I'm not sure if it was because I was new or just nervous to walk around in the dimly lit warehouse at night, but I ran like a chicken to the screen room where John was. He showed me the cameras. A camera sensor detected movement before I showed up to the hall, but the thing in the screen was not me. It looked like a shadow. A ball of shadow, I guess you could say, as ridiculous as it sounds. It clearly shows itself walking toward the camera and disappearing under it. From the corner of the screen, you can see me walking into the frame and picking up my radio. I stood in silence as John waited for my reaction. "Whoa," I remember saying. That was when John told me Becky's story, the supposed story behind the shadow that he had seen many times. He had a collection of screenshots, printed out and inside his drawer. The shadow coming from the same entrance as me. The shadow floating by the light switch. The shadow zooming by. So time went by and I got the hang of the job. Sometimes I'd be at the entrance booth, and other times at the screens. It was 2:30 a.m. and I was sitting there with my cup of noodles in one hand, staring at the screen of Section 2 Alpha in the hallway. John had been let go by this time after the break-in incident, and the other guard was at the entrance booth. That's when I saw it. It creeped from the door to the hallway and quickly went to the light switch. The lights went off. The alarm went off too. I got the radio and told the yard guard on duty that I was on it, and went slowly towards Section 2 Alpha with my flashlight. The area was dark when I got there, but the lights turned on as soon as I arrived. The doors were locked. Everything looked in place. I inserted the key, twisted it, and suddenly I could only hear the humming of the refrigerators again. As the night went on, the alarm kept sounding about every 15 minutes, so much that I ended up hitting the override button to silence them manually, blaming a malfunction on my report. John's mistake made so much sense to me right then. If I had had a button to turn off the alarms from the screen room, I would have turned them off from there too. But as I sat back down for the 4th time that night, I saw the shadow again. Twice in one night was rare. It stood in place by the entrance to the hallway. I walked toward the switch. The lights dimmed, but no alarm went off this time. Then the lights came back on. The shadow moved back to the light switch. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. The lights dimmed again. Then they turned back on. Was the shadow trying to turn off the lights? I saw the shadow creep slowly toward the wall where the camera was. And again it disappeared under the camera, away from view. I moved closer toward the screen to see if I noticed anything new. But all I could see was an empty hallway. I was waiting for it to appear again. Suddenly, There it was, about 6 inches away from the camera. The blurry face of a woman, her mouth wide open. Hair from only the left side of her head, the other glowing with the white color of her skull. Hello, Becky. I guess John had your story right the whole time.